Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you. I wasn't planning on sharing this, but how many of you have been to the Statue of Liberty in New York? Most of us have. It's incredible. This is the lyric, in case you missed it, from Emma Lazarus' poem, The New Colossus. "Keep, ancient lands, your storied pomp," cries she with silent lips. "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me. I will lift my lamp beside the golden door." Whew. The message of freedom today is one of inclusion, not exclusion. It's always been who we are. Evidently, right before I'm leaving on this sabbatical, it's like I'm not able to stick to the script. I wasn't able to last week, and this is not how I planned on starting this, but I called today's message The Call to Freedom. And boy, that song and that amazing statue and that poem by the American poet Emma Lazarus just says it. That this has always been a place of freedom and possibility, where people have this choice. They're not bound by the class system of the old countries. That's something new. Anybody can make it here if they're willing to risk and to bring their gifts to bear. It's still a powerful story. Speaking of New York, Miss Olga, I saw you on TV. Olga and her husband Jeff were at the Yankees and Astros game last Sunday afternoon. I was with my nephews and getting ready to go to the airport, my niece, and I was like, "They go to my church." So I don't know if you got to see the Statue of Liberty, but it was great to see you in New York on TV. So here's something I want to share with you, speaking of New York. Sorry. A truck loaded with thousands of copies of Roget's Thesaurus spilled its load while leaving New York. Witnesses were stunned, startled, aghast, stupefied, confused, shocked, rattled, paralyzed, dazed, bewildered, surprised, dumbfounded, flabbergasted, confounded, astonished, and numbed. That's a thinking man's joke. I'm sorry, I heard another one said, I'm telling a 6-foot joke, but some of you are 5'8". So no, I'm just teasing. Back to something a little more serious. Here's actually the description. I usually don't quote myself in these talks, but it's so funny. I write the titles and descriptions weeks and weeks in advance, and I love giving the 4th of July sermon. I always have. And I know that we're in a difficult time in our nation's history. I know that things are hard and there's a lot of pain and fear. But I didn't know how accurate this was going to be for today when we arrived here. As Americans celebrate July 4th, it's the date of our signing of the Declaration of Independence. We celebrate that as the birth of our nation. We celebrate the holiday at Unity because the high ideals of freedom and equality align beautifully with our spiritual teachings. However, it's plain to see that this nation has yet to live up to the high calling of its guiding principles. So these questions are before us now. Can we celebrate a dream that is yet unfulfilled? Can we celebrate the progress that we have made thus far? And most importantly, can we hold to our faith and keep the vision as we listen for the call of freedom that comes to us personally? What is mine to do to be a part of America's healing and evolution? It feels a little heavier. I didn't know how it would feel this morning singing those patriotic songs, and my heart was moved. You know, I know people that are just giving up left and right, saying it's not going to get better. I have friends who are leaving the country, truly, moving away. That's not me. I'm here. I want to be a part of the healing. I want to be a part of the growth and the overcoming of these obstacles, the things that are unlike the truth of our nation. I want to be a part of the healing of that. So I want to remind you, too, that there is a trick of the mind that says it used to be perfect, and if we could only go back to the way it used to be, it would be great. It's never been true and will never be true. It was never perfect. We think about July 4th, 1776. It was the signing of the Declaration of Independence, and a powerful document, a statement, the Great Experiment, it was called, for equality. Because if you remember, I don't think any of us were around then, but this was the first real attempt to do democracy. You know, one person, one vote. So this was huge in the evolution of consciousness and how nations can be governed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. To secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. It's a big piece right there. Deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Big words. Big idea. Self-evident truths of equality and freedom. And yet, if I remember right, there were some people left out in that first go-round, that first attempt to live freedom and equality in the laws of this nation. Women. Oh yeah, and there were a whole cast of hundreds of thousands who were enslaved. Didn't apply to them, did it? What about the indigenous people that were here, whose treaties were broken again and again and again? So, nice try. Not complete. Not fulfilled yet. And still, a step in the right direction. Just 3 years after the ratification of the Constitution of the United States, it was already amended. The first 10 amendments called the Bill of Rights. Do you remember this? You guys weren't around. This is not going to be a civics lesson for the whole sermon today, but I think it's important. 3 years after, the First Amendment says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Basically, this means that there can be no state religion in the United States of America. That can't be. If you remember, the Puritans, many of whom founded the colonies, they were fleeing religious oppression from the Church of England. That they were not allowed to practice their religion as they saw fit, so they came here so they could have freedom of religion. And then, the idea here is that everyone is free to do what is in their heart, in their spirit. It forbids Congress from promoting one religion over others. And it also restricts that we can't police individual religious expression. In 1865, the signing of the 13th Amendment, which ended slavery. In 1920, the 19th Amendment, which gave women the vote. This high ideal of freedom and equality now 245 years since the signing of the Declaration, still a work in progress. Still seeking to create a society that is just, that contains this sense of possibility and freedom. And today, well, I don't know how you are doing, but when I listen to the most strident voices, both on the left and the right, it's hard. It's hard to find this. Where can we agree? Where is that common vision of what we can be as a nation? There are people openly talking about civil war and secession. It's happening right now. So I just want to remind us of the very worst times in our own lives. Let's think about that for a minute, shall we? Think about those times when you had no idea how this was ever going to work out, where it really felt like there was no way. Anybody else have one of those times or a couple of them? Dark night of the soul. It's like, I just don't see any way. God makes a way where there is no way. God brings the high places low and exalts the valleys. And so when we align ourselves with, and if you don't like the word God in this context, there's so many. You know, they're all just metaphors. When you're speaking about the infinite, nobody can come up with a name or an image or an idea that gets all of it. But how about divine creative energy? The thing that makes the redwood grow from the tiniest little seed. Think about that. And think about that as being the energy of life itself that got you through that dark night of the soul, and probably not alone. If you're like me, I needed a few other people to support, to encourage, to tell me the difficult truth I didn't want to hear. Amen? Anybody have one of those? You know, you've heard that saying, the truth will set you free, but first it's going to piss you off. Gloria Steinem said that. I finally was able to get that back. It's true. The truth will set us free, but first we have to look at how and we ain't really living that truth, are we? So I want to normalize for just a moment. Now, we've never been here as a nation before, but we've been through tough times, people. Individually, in our families, collectively. This ain't nothing new. That we have continually gone through times when we don't have enough information, we don't see a path forward, and yet somehow this divine creative flow of God's love and possibility shows up. And answers materialize, choices that we need to make for change, they happen. We step into it with intention and perseverance is the most unsexy word in all of New Thought. We want it. We want transformation like now. But I will tell you, the most lasting changes in my life have been the ones that require diligent, daily practice and effort over a long time. So we're not going to solve this today. No matter how many Roman candles and sparklers we shoot off. It's not going to be solved today. But it will. We will find the way through. I want to speak a little bit about that First Amendment too. Well, actually, I'm going to let Jesus speak about it. Is that all right with you? This is from Mark chapter 12, verse 13. And they sent to him some of the Pharisees and some of the Herodians to trap him in his talk. No comment. And they came and said to him, "Teacher, we know that you are true and do not care about anyone's opinion, for you are not swayed by the appearances, but truly teach the way of God." Remember, they're trying to trap him. "Is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not? Should we pay them or should we not?" They butter him up first. "You're so good. You don't care about what anybody thinks. You're only going to give us the truth." This tyrannical overlord government oppressing us, should we give them our money? What do you think? Knowing that the oppressive system that they were under by the imperialist Roman army. There's nothing holy in that. They were being stomped into the earth. Surely this holy man will tell us that it is our right to throw off the government oppressor. And what does Jesus say? Let's see. But knowing their hypocrisy, he said to them, "Why put me to the test? Bring me a denarius, and let me look at it." They brought one, and he said to them, "Whose likeness and inscription is on this?" And they said to him, "Caesar's." And Jesus said to them, "Render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's." Brilliant, brilliant wisdom. Because here's the thing, there is a temptation to think, if I could just get the government to get to align with my religion, everybody would be fine, because I've got the right way. So if I can just get everybody to do what I tell them to do, that which seems right to me. Everybody thinks they're right. I shared this last week, you're not right. How many have been told? That's the truth some of us don't like to hear. Not about everything. None of us are. We don't have enough information. We're wrong about many of our assumptions and our perspectives. But it's the people who think they ain't wrong you have to look out for. And I've been those people. So I'm not pointing fingers here. And so what Jesus is really saying in this amazing, very famous interchange is that to try and establish a government of people, it's not going to be a thing that can ever be completely of God. Do you hear me? And if all we have to do is look to history and see the failures of the church states. That's all we have to do. Anytime that religion and government have gotten in bed together, it has not turned out good for the people. Now, I'm not preaching against any party, but I am here to go with Jesus on this, that to render unto Caesar what is Caesar's and to render unto God what is God's. As we begin to, last week I spoke about what's calling a lot of us in this community into spiritually principled activism, and we're doing it today. I mean, if you are not registered to vote, or if you have moved, or if you haven't checked your registration, I'm going to encourage you to go see Norma Green at the table right after this service to make sure that your registration is active, and if you any of that, she can take care of you. Where is Norma? Is she out there? She is out. We love you, Norma Green. It's so good to see you, and thank you. That is spiritually principled activism. That's it. We are giving you the opportunity to participate in the life of the government in the appropriate way. Now, what we're not going to do is give you a voter guide. Many churches do that. We're not going to do that at Unity. What we're encouraging you to do is to vote your conscience. Vote your consciousness. That's the way we participate. Freedom is a process. It's not an event. And the process of freedom is always going to require us to tell a deeper and deeper and deeper truth. And even though we're in this time of great division and people talking over each other and yelling over each other, that's not going to solve it. But the only hope is for us to find some way to speak truth to each other and to ourselves in common ground and understanding. And I don't know the ways for that. I don't know how we're going to get to that. It just feels like I don't know. But again, as I said, I don't have to have the answers. I just know that I'm not going to run away. There are two things I think I really need to have you hear today, that it's never been perfect, but it can get better. Can you just say that after me? It's never been perfect, and it can get better. So let's celebrate the 4th of July with those ideas. It's never been perfect. It can get better. And we can also celebrate our own lives, our own journey. There's a spiritual practice, very simple, that Ernest Holmes created. And I use it as a lifeline from despair. And it's very simple. Look for the good and praise it. Look for the good and praise it. Deepak Chopra's 7 spiritual laws, one of those laws is that which you pay attention to expands in consciousness. So this is basic New Thought metaphysics right here. If you only spend your time looking at that which isn't good, it grows in your consciousness. So I'm not saying that we hide our head under a bushel or whatever that thing is. We do look at the difficult truth, but we also have to find the good and praise it. And it may be difficult to find, but I'm going to encourage you to look for it. Look for those places where people are standing up for freedom and justice. Praise it. Praise it. Because it is happening. I'll tell you too, I know that I'm 56, so really I'm kind of in that median age where people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s are generally the ones in power. Not entirely. But there was an article this week I read about the 20-somethings who are helping the 70-somethings run Washington. And I'm betting on them. I'm betting on y'all. Not the ones in Washington. Just those Gen Y, Gen Z. They're wired differently. Some of the things that we still argue about, to them, it's just settled. Around inclusion and diversity, they seem to just know the importance of that without having to be taught. I don't know if that's just kind of the way evolution has worked, or it's their boomer parents. Thank you all for teaching your kids right, but there's just something different that's coming in the new generations. And our job is to make sure there's something left for them to live in and work out. We're not even talking yet about, the climate crisis, because we're so in our political crisis right now. But I'm telling you, that's the big one. And it has to be dealt with. And we have to be able to leave these new adults that are coming on board not only something that's left to work with, but hope. This teaching that we bring of possibility and transformation, they're going to need it. Because I promise you, and I remember at 30 years old and going, it's just too big, it's too much, there's nothing I can do. I'm just talking about my life. But about the world, it feels too big, it's overwhelming. Now we need to encourage them. Remind them that there is this energy of life itself that knows how to navigate even the most difficult situations. And that which has been holding energy, which is no longer needed, will fall away. And this new thing that we can't even see yet or describe, this new way of being together as Americans, it's calling to us. I'm not giving up. I am not giving up. I want us to be a place that is continuing to hold this idea of hope and positive change and growth. There is one of my favorite verses in the Bible. It comes from the book of Micah, chapter 6, verse 8. In the King James, "He has shown thee, O man, what is good and what the Lord requires of thee, but to do justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with thy God." In the New International Version, "He has shown you, O mortal, what is good. What does Elohim require of you? Justice, mercy, and humility." The Talmud is a collection of writings by the rabbis over centuries. When they would read these important verses, they would comment. This is from the Talmud. "Do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief. Do justly now, love mercy now, walk humbly now. You are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it." So why do we want to run away, put our head under a blanket, and just let the world go to hell in a handbasket? What the heck does that mean? What's a handbasket? Is it just the H's, the alliteration of it? I don't know. I've been saying it my whole life. I was thinking, too, about the kids that were up here earlier, and I was asking them how they're going to be with raising their kids. There's a phrase in Oklahoma, I don't know if y'all have heard it in Texas or other places, but he's paying for his raisin. Do you know what that means? It means when a parent has a child that's being exactly the kind of child they were, paying for your raisin. Man, we're not going to finish the work in our lifetimes. You get that, right? But we can't give up. We can't give up. I know there's the temptation to do so is strong. And you know, the truth is, I don't know what our role as a spiritual community is in this idea of spiritually principled activism. I'm feeling it, I'm hearing it from many of you that it's time we step into it in a more holy and proactive way. We'll see. We'll see what God has in mind. But I know we can't run and you know, one of the big critiques of the New Thought movement is during the civil rights movement of the 60s, we stayed on the sidelines, did nothing. We can't. We just can't. That our teaching, our lineage has matured in a different way now, and we understand that these important principles of diversity, inclusion, and equity, we have to be a part of that conversation. Why? Because it's exactly what our teaching offers us. That we are each uniquely, beautifully made in the image and likeness of the Most High, and we are all here to express that divine creative energy freely and fully. It's why we're here. We don't do this great work alone. And I guess I'm going to end with this a joke, 3 points in a poem. I'm at the poem portion of today's sermon. How do I say this? It's really weird that I'm talking about this. We don't hide and we don't run away, and I'm ready to go hide in Ireland for 2 months. So I'm actually not. I'm going to meet God. I expect to be changed by this experience in a way that I don't know what that is. There's not even internet in the cottage where I'm staying. God, I hope you know what you're doing. I've found I'm an extrovert. My job is people. I love you all. I love people. But I'm being called to a path of solitude for a time. I'm trusting the Holy Spirit to work on me. I'm trusting that I'll come back ready for your hugs, but different. But what I'm talking about here is the impulse to hide, the impulse to withdraw and isolate. And that is not a place of health for us as human beings. So this poem is by Irish poet David White, one of my favorites. I've read him many times to you before. This is called Everything is Waiting for You. Gary, do you mind giving me a little music for this? Your great mistake is to act the drama as if you are alone, as if life were a progressive and cunning crime with no witness to the tiny hidden transgressions. To feel abandoned is to deny the intimacy of your surroundings. Surely even you at times have felt the grand array, the swelling presence, and the chorus crowding out your solo voice. You must note the way the soap dish enables you, or the window latch grants you freedom. Alertness is the hidden discipline of familiarity. The stairs are your mentor of things to come. The doors have always been there to frighten you and to invite you. And the tiny, tiny speaker in the phone is your dream ladder to divinity. Put down the weight of your aloneness and ease into the conversation. The kettle is singing. Even as it pours you a drink, the cooking pots have left their arrogant aloofness, and they've seen the good in you at last. All the birds and the creatures of this earth are unutterably themselves, and everything is waiting for you. Pray with me. My heart is so tender. I feel the slipperiness of these times. I feel the precarious nature of what's in front of us, what we're walking through together. And yet, I anchor this prayer in the deepest truth that there is only one life, and that life is the life of God, and that life is perfect. And that life is my life. And that life is the life of all within the sound of my voice. That beneath all of the struggle and strife that we are witnessing, that we are feeling, there is a deeper place of unity, of wholeness, of power, of possibility. And it wants to be lived in and through each of us. So in this moment, I speak my word, I proclaim the truth over each of us here that we are all called to be a part of the great healing, the great reawakening, the great liberation of humanity right now. And our part may be small. It may be that simple conversation on a phone. Our part may not seem to matter. But we're saying yes to following that intuitive leading, to stepping out of isolationness and separation and into the great symphony. Each of us bringing a part, a perspective, an intention of healing, of overcoming, of freedom. And I speak my word for the United States of America, that giant lady in New York Harbor is reminding us today of our truth, that we are here to say, come and join us in this journey of freedom. We place our arms around those who need our help, and we reach ahead to those whose help we need. And we say, yes, we are willing. Knowing that healing is already assured, knowing that we're always given what we need when we need it. Thank you, God. We let it be, and so it is. Amen. My last chance to say it for a little while. If no one has told you today that they love you, I love you. God bless you.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.